Well, all right. Well, welcome to the plague. And let me just start out by asking you how the pandemic has affected you personally, and then like as a band, like how did you guys deal with it over the past year?
Um, if we start personally, um, maybe not that much. When it comes to my daytime job, I'm working at a desk, so I could have. I mean, yeah, the show just went on, but
Same here.
from home instead of an office.
Right.
Um, and yeah, I didn't mind that too much, at least not in the beginning. But yeah, it's been going on. It's still going on actually, and so I never thought I would say it, but in a way, I kind of long for getting back to the office in some regards.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I mean, my family is healthy. Everybody's doing okay, and we still have our jobs, and so I mean, I shouldn't complain. When it comes to the band, yeah, we got the album together finally after, so it couldn't be too bad. Yeah, but it was on its way happening anyway. We kind of after quite a long time since our last release, we finally got the new album together uh, by I would say about the start of 2020 actually.
Oh, okay.
And we had some and then we were about to book the studios we needed and kind of lay out the time schedule for the whole production, and that happened kind of about the same time as the outbreak. And yeah, I mean, we were going to do a lot of things remotely anyway, so it didn't affect our plans too much. And we did some traveling within Sweden to studios and so on, but so for the album production, it didn't matter that much either. But then we have the live thing, of course, which we didn't had. I think we had only like three festivals booked or something, in Germany, UK, and here in Sweden, which were postponed, and they are still postponed.
Right.
We'll see when they happen, if they ever happen. But I would say that maybe the only really negative thing is right now with the live thing, because yeah, we have an album coming out after the summer, and we really have no shows to play, and obviously we want to present the album live as well. We finally can do the new songs and so on, and yeah, I mean, it seems I know at least in the US it seems to start happening now for real. I guess we're a bit behind here in Europe, but so it seems that the festival season of 2022 is on currently.
Mm-hmm.
But then the festival lineups and the bands on the bill, that is from 2020. So it's not the best situation right now to get to book new shows and get your slots. But on the other hand, there should be some openings for us. Not every single band are going to not every single band will be able to fulfill their bookings, I think. So there should be some openings here and there, hopefully, for us, so that we can do some shows during 2022. Maybe even something towards the end of this year. We'll see. But I mean, if you're asking a festival, when do you have a clean slate, then we're talking 2023. So that's a bit depressing if you think about it.
Right.
So yeah, obviously, as for every band, the live situation is not the best, and we're not happy about it. But otherwise, as we are running our band, we haven't been too affected, I would say.
So when you guys were putting the album together, what was the consideration in terms of like releasing it now rather than waiting until you were sure that you could tour for it? Was there any concern about like just putting it out now and then it, maybe not being able to tour for like 6 months or something?
Yeah. We were obviously a bit eager to just get it out as soon as humanly possible, because there has been such a long gap since the last album.
Right.
And we thought that, the people who are, if there are people waiting for a new THYRFING album, they're not going to care too much about the timing. They're going to check it out anyway.
True.
So in that regard, I don't think we had to take too much into consideration either the live business or the release release schedule as a whole. With if we were coming out a month with a lot of releases and so on, I just think that we could do our own thing there, as there was such a long time since the last album. But so we were originally aiming to release it this spring or even in the winter. Mm-hmm. But during the production and all the things with the artwork and the layout and the video production, we kind of came to the conclusion that it was going to be hard to put it out this spring. There's also seemed to be an increasing time for the print, the press factory for the vinyls.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So that was, I think it's over 6 months now or something. You have to give them the original files before. So our label was definitely advising us to wait until after the summer. And when we took that decision, there was also, there was still on the table that there might be shows and festivals going on right after the summer, or even during the summer. So we kind of had that in the back of our head as well. So even though it was a bit frustrating because the album was recorded and finished during the winter, we should just try to do a proper release instead after the summer, and then we focused on doing some videos and single releases during the spring.
Mm-hmm. Diving into the songwriting, when exactly did you start the songwriting process for this album? And then how has that overall process changed over the years compared to maybe like, back in the 90s when you were first starting out?
Yeah, it has definitely changed. I think this is probably the first album which was written all in a home studio environment, where you kind of put your things as a demo or a pre-production, if you can even call it that. We were doing a bit of collaborative work anyway, like we were 2 or 3 people sitting next to each other doing things. But I mean, when we started out, it was the old school way. 5 or 6 guys standing in a circle in a rehearsal place, playing music next to each other. And over the years, it kind of evolved. I think we were quite early on, actually, with when the home recordings kind of became accessible to technology. Like right. We had those, and we also had, as we had a keyboard player, he was quite early on the sequencer stuff. We were like, we can record it at home. It was like science fiction. But of course, nowadays it's not really a unique thing. It's just simply common practice. And we kind of mixed those two approaches, I would say, on most albums, actually. Like maybe one song were done at rehearsals with 5 people actually playing music next to each other, while we did some songs or parts of songs recorded in a home studio environment. But this time there was not much rehearsing until all the songs were done, actually, while we started. And then obviously some things and details in the arrangement will change when you're at it with your real drums and your when you get that kind of aspect coming into it. And also during the recordings, there are of course also some changes. So it's not like what you're doing as a demo recording is exactly how it's going to end up on the album. But so yeah, we'll see where we go in the future. I mean, even though there are many pros with recording it at home, there are of course some cons also, and there is a certain kind of magic with playing music with other people, which can get a bit lost in this. Yeah, we're definitely not closing any doors for the future to try going back to that, at least in part.
You mentioned the prominent use of keyboards. When it comes to writing the songs, like, do you typically start with the guitar? Do you start with the keyboard? Does it kind of vary depending on the song?
In the previously, it's been a bit 50-50, I would say, because our founding member Peter, who played the keyboards on all albums up until this one, he was one of the main songwriters. We kind of wrote together, collaborative, both with keyboards and guitars, and maybe it would start with something on the keyboards or something with the guitars and so on. And for this new album, we didn't have a dedicated keyboard player, but it was our bass player, Joachim, who did all the keyboards. Mm-hmm. And so I think naturally out from that, this time we started with the guitars in maybe 80% of the cases, I would say. So the keyboards kind of came afterwards, but for some songs it was the other way around. But
the production on this album is quite excellent. Like I was just really impressed overall. I was wondering how it is that you guys hooked up with Jacob Herman and Jacob Hansen to do the recording and the mix and everything.
We were talking about Jacob Hansen quite early when we started to lay out the plans. We were really impressed in some of the productions he's made. Not really much in our style of music, though. It was maybe more bands with a modern approach and touch. But we knew that this album was going to be, how should I put it, busy when it comes to a lot of instruments and layers going on, a lot of keyboards and vocals and choirs and so on. And we thought that he had made some really impressive mixes with busy bands. Also his basic drum and bass sound we're really impressed by as well. So we're kind of talking about him, and but without even, before we asked him, we were also looking for an engineer and a studio for the drums, and we had been our drummer had been in touch with Jacob Herman a few years back and talked about it, and we asked this time again. And then it turned out that he's usually working in team with the other Jacob.
Okay.
So one guy records and the other one mixes, and they really like that setup and approach. So it was like, that would be fantastic. And we decided we also tracked the guitars with Jacob in Gothenburg. The other recordings were done in a bit different, smaller studios by ourselves, and then Jacob made the things come together.
Yeah, it sounds great, because I mean, I know how complex the mixing process can be with so much going on, and I haven't had a chance to listen to it on headphones yet to kind of really get into the details. But yeah, just listening to it over speakers, like there's a good clarity to all the instruments, which is nice. I want to talk a little bit about the artwork. It's got a very dramatic and effective feel to it. And I know you guys have worked with Nicholas previously. How much of the concept for this cover came from the band, and how much came from him?
Most from the band, I would say. The thing was, we were getting a bit desperate at a point because, we decided for the album title, which is Vanagander, which is a not so known name for the creature known as Fenrir from the Scandinavian mythology, which is obviously a well-known character that has been used a lot in metal music and artwork and so on.
Yeah.
So we wanted something that went along with the title, but we were also really afraid, like, okay, we're going to put the wolf on the cover. So how are we going to do that in a good way?
You're right.
So it's not like that you end up with something on any shirt at a flea market or something. We were working with some artists, but that artist dropped out from the project because it was just too hard to make something good out of it. And we were starting to get a bit stressed about it, and then for some reason Niklas' name came up, and we were really happy with the work he did back for that album in 2002, and I'm not sure why we never reconnected or worked together again. I guess we just went on, like we have used pretty different artists for the cover over the years. His name came up, and we contacted him again, and he was really up for the project, and he had time. And there was a lot of back and forth, but we had a really good communication, even though even though we only had written communication, actually, because he's living in the US nowadays. It was a really long conversation thread with the concepts back and forth, and he did a lot of sketches, and but I must say I'm really happy about the cover. I'm not saying it's the most original or groundbreaking cover art in metal history, but I think it suits the album. It's striking and simple in one way, but on the other hand, it's a bit, as you say, dramatic, and it's also very good in detail. So right. I think it will hopefully look amazing on vinyl and posters and the bigger formats as well.
Yeah, I like the work you did on the singles covers as well. Like they're all different, but like you can kind of feel like a theme, type of the album cover itself.
Yeah, I think it's got a very broad palette, or how to put it. He hasn't done too much stuff in our style if you look at his portfolio, but he's really good at simply getting the concept, what the band wants, and adapt his style afterwards. It's not like you give Niklas a job and you know how it's going to look.
Right.
I think he's able to bring out different style and solutions to each of his clients. So I'm really happy about it.
Over the years, you've had the classic THYRFING logo like incorporated into the album art on several of the releases, but then you also have kind of gone away from that. And on the new one in particular, it's not part of the cover art. I'm wondering if that was a conscious choice just to kind of make the name a little bit, stand out a little bit more, and kind of like, a return. Here's the return of the band, or was it just didn't feel right to include that with the artwork?
It was actually decided before we started with the artwork, so it doesn't have anything to do with this particular artwork. I think we just wanted to have something that was more comprehensible, readable, and easy to grab, especially in smaller formats. We obviously love the old logo; it's really cool in a way, but it has its limitations as well. And if you put it really cramped together unfortunately, we're not on top of all the posters. I mean, it looks great in big format. It looks great on a backdrop or a drum skin or things like that. But in some situation, it's not really, just not a good graphical solution. So we wanted to have something which was a bit more usable. But yeah, it's not like we're dropping the logo forever. It might show up in different situations and later on. But that was the main idea this time. Yeah.
Going back to the 80s, like it seemed like a lot of bands where English wasn't their native language. They kind of felt compelled to sing in English just to have a global appeal. But then in the 90s, when you had like the black metal and Viking metal, pagan metal bands started coming out and singing in their native language, I think that changed quite a bit. And you guys are one of the ones, I think, that, you know, started out doing that. Like you kind of mixed some songs in English, some in Swedish. But it seems like you kind of been moving more and more towards just singing in Swedish with the more recent albums. Was that a difficult choice in the beginning? Like, did you think about it too much, or was it just kind of like what felt right for the particular lyrics?
No, it wasn't much thought about behind it in the beginning. We just kind of went with it when something came to you, even if it was in Swedish or English. Yeah, over the years, we kind of realized what is actually the case for any non-English speaker, that you are better in your own language to express yourself and to simply do something that is on the same level as the music. I mean, we just couldn't write really, really good English lyrics, and we realized that we could never reach to that level. And also, yeah, for the kind of music and atmosphere we do, we think that Swedish is much more fitting language. I know there is a flip side of that as well, of course. It might be a bit frustrating or annoying to some people. Yeah, so in the last 3 albums, we have gone 100% Swedish lyrics, and that was a conscious decision that we did, actually. Because we felt it, because it was a bit strange on the middle albums where we had like 6 songs in Swedish and then 2 songs with English lyrics. That was not something we planned either, just how it turned out. But we got some comments about it, and it got me thinking that, yeah, I mean, it's kind of changes the whole vibe and atmosphere about it. Yeah, we just felt that with the Swedish lyrics, we were getting better all the time, and that we could achieve something that was really good. But it's hard. I mean, today there is even more than before. There's an urge from everyone that everything should be accessible and everything should be possible. And I mean, you can't just put our lyrics through machine translation and expect it to be something worth reading.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. Maybe in 10 years it will, when the machine translation is even better. But yeah, I totally understand that it's not maybe the best decision from a commercial point of view, but from an artistic point of view, it just feels like the right thing to do, really.
Yeah, especially for a band that deals with a lot of like historical and mythological subjects that are tied to Sweden and the Scandinavian area. So.
Yeah, and it kind of puts harder pressure on you as well, I would say, because if we talk about a Swedish band, if they do English lyrics and someone in Sweden are going to read their English lyrics and say something about it, I mean, they could get away with pretty much anything. Because for us Swedes, with the English lyrics, everything sounds great. And I mean, many of these young Swedish bands, probably you would laugh at their lyrics, but for the average Swedish metal fan, it's a cool title, it's a cool lyric. But once you get with the Swedish lyrics, then it easily turns uncomfortable to people, because it gets to you in a different way, and it also it takes a lot more from the one writing the lyrics to get away with it. So I think that's also a nice challenge, actually.
You guys have worked with a number of labels over the years. I'm wondering what kind of experiences you've had, good or bad, and how you ended up with Despots for the current release.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were on Dutch Hammerheart Records for the first 3 albums, and we were quite happy about it back then. I mean, we were young, we didn't know any better, we didn't know what to expect or what to ask about, but I guess they did some good things for us. Probably some bad things also, but yeah, that's how things are. Then they kind of went out of business, or they reformed, changed their name and so on, and just went down in scale. And our contract ended, and they pretty much told us that, we couldn't really afford making another THYRFING album. So maybe it's just better if we just part ways, and we agreed. Then we went on with Regain Records in Sweden, which were really on their way up back then. They had a lot of great Swedish bands. They also had Behemoth, Danzig, and so on.
Right.
Unfortunately, things started to went downhill pretty shortly after we released the album. And that label is also defunct pretty much nowadays, or we're working in a different scale. Then we did the last album of Noise Art Records in Austria. It was just not a good match, I would say. During this long gap between the albums, we did some thinking, and so we had been talking to Despots earlier. They are actually some old friends or friends of friends from the same generation and the same city as us.
Oh, cool.
So we kind of knew about each other, and we have a lot of common friends and so on. We had discussed with them a few years earlier, but now we took up the discussions again, and we felt that, it was not like all the major labels were throwing contracts at us anyway. We had a few different ones interested, but not that many, and we felt that, this is a bit different thing. I mean, it's they are equally pop label as they are rock and metal, and they have a really broad selection of bands and styles of music. We felt that maybe that it would be a different thing to try out. They are also, I think they are quite hungry and on the edge when it comes to the new ways of consuming and distributing music. So they are not kind of stuck in the old ways of working. So we felt that, why not give it a try and see? I mean, we tried to work with more traditional metal labels before, and maybe this time it was a good opportunity to try something new. And we know that they are not in the same pond as the bigger metal labels, but so far so good, and I hope that it will work out good.
Very cool. I don't want to go over time here, but one last question I've been trying to ask everybody I've been talking to is, what would you consider to be your favorite Black Sabbath album, and why?
Oof. Yeah. Yeah, that's hard, because I see Black Sabbath as 2 or 3 different bands in a way. But I wouldn't say any of the Aussie albums. I would probably say Heaven and Hell. But I really like Headless Cross as well.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so it's kind of different band for me, but probably the Dio era is, I think, what I personally enjoy the most. Of course, I do realize the importance and the influence and so on of the 70s albums, and I think of the Ozzy albums, I would probably say that Sabotage is the best one. So I'm not one of those purists that can only say the first 4 albums, rather the opposite. But if I should settle on one, let's say Heaven and Hell, because it's a 10 out of 10 album, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and good luck with the album. And yeah, it'd be great if you guys could ever make it over to the US for tour, but good luck with any touring that you do get set up.
Yeah, thanks. Probably not next week, but hopefully in the future.
All right.
Okay. Been nice talking to you.
Yeah, take care.
Take care. Cheers.